Hey everyone, this is Becca Pugh with Peace Catalyst International here in the Washington, D.C. area. I am here with my friend AnaMichele who I met last year at the Museum of the Palestinian People when she was working there. And we grabbed coffee and connected more, and I learned about how she's bringing together Christians from her church and Muslims in her local area for iftars and other fun gatherings in Northern Virginia. And so I wanted to invite her here for a conversation about what that experience has been like for herself, for her Christian friends, for her Muslim friends, and just, what they've been learning from those gatherings. So welcome, AnaMichele, and I will let you give a quick intro about yourself too.
Thanks. So I work for the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. I used to work at the Museum of the Palestinian People, as Becca said, that's where we met. And I live in the Northern Virginia area. I've lived here my whole life, and went to school at George Mason, so I never left after college. And George Mason was where I had the introduction to my first Muslim friends, a lot of international friends who became like family. So that, with a combination of a couple of trips to the Middle East and various other things, has kind of shaped a whole lot of who I am and why I do what I do, and some of what we're going to talk about, which was the iftar gathering that started 3 years ago. And I've learned a lot from it, and I'm really happy to share with you about that.
So cool to hear about how your life experiences kind of just have formed you into who you are and inspired you in this way. So I'm curious, how did you first get the idea to facilitate these interfaith iftars with Muslims and Christians? What inspired you? How did you go about making it happen? And what was that like getting it started?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I took my first trip to the Middle East, and it happened to be during Ramadan. And I was going on a cultural exchange and did not know what to expect. I had some Muslim friends back here who probably explained Ramadan to me and kind of a little bit more of the Muslim calendar. But of course, I've never been in a predominantly Muslim country where everyone is observing this, even if I had friends here who had in the past. So it was a really interesting experience to be in a place where, during the day, everything's shut down, and every single night, families are out and, just enjoying parks and their kids and bringing chai, tea out, and like dates and celebrating together. I mean, it's so unlike anything I've ever experienced. But the really shocking part of being there and not really knowing many people was the amount of invitations we got from people like just pulling us in off the street, like on the metro with someone who's like starts up a conversation with us, and it's like, you need to come to my house tonight. You're gonna meet my family. We want to have you for dinner, and like this is a really important tradition for us. Not only to share this meal every night when we break our fast with other people, but also we really love to extend hospitality. And they tell us how they, bring meals to the gardener or the neighbor or the poor man on the street, and how it's just a time where everybody's super vigilant and aware and caring for their community. And it was like this incredible thing. I mean, it's something we don't have any equivalent for here. So it's really definitely left an impression, and had so many great friendships from people that, again, were strangers one day and, welcomed us to share meals with their family repeatedly, who, now I still keep in touch with years and years later. So there were a lot of these encounters that stuck with me after coming home. And in the year, let's see, I guess this is 30, it must have been 2017. 2017 or 2018. I was at Mosaic District. I had spent a lot of time there. It's a local, shopping center and hub in our area. And there's a ton, just for various factors, there's a lot of Arabs and Muslims in our area that love that shopping center. one of the factors is there's like a local Ministry of Culture for the Saudi Arabia, but there's also a lot of other families who really just love to come to the space, and especially during Ramadan, because it's one of the only places in our area that stays open late enough so that once people break their fast, they can still kind of spend some of their time with family and walking around and playing in the park. So I started to notice this that year right before Ramadan started, or that first week, and I really just feel like I was standing in the shopping center one day and kind of looking out, and I really think that God's voice just prompted me. These are your neighbors, and you should welcome them in the way that you were welcomed when you were a stranger in someone else's country. And it's not like all of these people are strangers. A lot of them are Americans too, or Muslim friends. But this is your opportunity to give them a welcome. And also during Ramadan, you now know about Ramadan, and it's an opportunity for you to look out for their needs. So there is an opportunity to, serve a meal when I know that everybody's going to be needing to break fast, and also a really great opportunity to create community. So, of course, since those several years of starting it, I've heard of a lot of places doing similar things, especially masjids. But I think the difference is that, that's where, and it's wonderful, like Muslims are able to extend hospitality to their neighbors, and then Americans or whatever different groups that they're serving are getting to experience this incredible tradition. But I thought it was also important that, we be aware as Americans, as Christians, as non-Muslims, that these are our neighbors. This is what their holy month is, and what are they up to, and how can we join with them in some kind of shared space around that, and kind of an opportunity to listen, to learn, to connect, and also to serve each other.
That's so cool. I love how it was kind of like an exchange of hospitality, because you had experienced that in a Muslim Arab cultural context, and then kind of had just a similar idea. That's so cool. I love it. Yeah, and I've been privileged enough to attend some virtual iftars that AnaMichele has hosted during COVID, which has been great to meet some of her friends from the area. So what has the growth process of these iftars and gatherings looked like over the years?
So a lot of the people I've connected with are kind of from all these random places. Like I said, I made a lot of friends Muslim friends at George Mason, where I went to school. So that's still in the area. So some of the friends have still stuck around even after school, or some are like in graduate programs and they've been here for a while and they're still here. So there's a kind of contingency from that part of my life that, always invite them, and a lot of them come regularly. And then there's a lot of people I've met. I used to work actually at Mosaic District at the coffee shop, and so if you've been there, it's kind of the hub of everything, and so you end up knowing everyone. And I made friendships with a lot of people from all these different countries, and even some just because I love Arabic culture and Arabic, the language itself. So some people I've randomly struck up conversations with, and then we became friends. There was also a friend who, there's a friend of ours who works locally at a restaurant, and she's from Iraq, and an American friend of mine had met her because he was repeatedly dining at the restaurant, and ended up inviting her, and she came with like her whole family, all these kids and her husband. And actually, one example of how our group has grown in that way is that just this last week, even though it's not Ramadan, and both Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha have also both passed, we just decided, let's just keep meeting. A lot of people want to see people in this COVID period of time, and we could be outside safely and distanced and still hold these gatherings. So she came to me with the idea, and she said, AnaMichele, I really want to cook this Iraqi feast for all of your friends and all of the people I've ever met in the last few years that have come. Can you just make it happen, and I'm going to show up? And she shows up with like a million plates of incredible food. And she brought half of like her family, her extended family, and her relatives and friends of friends and neighbors and all these people, because she also is definitely she's the kind of person who brings people in and has so many connections and is a welcomer and really loves to love on other people. And so that's been so cool because now she and I are having this partnership where we're like, both of us have the same goal and we just want to connect everybody to just be in a space, even outside of Ramadan, where we're just getting to know each other, people who are different from each other and wouldn't otherwise know each other, to make memories together, to sit and learn from each other and listen, and then share this incredible food. So that's been one really fun way that it's been growing. I also, at the beginning, was really trying to be intentional to bring my American friends in, not only so they could experience this amazing culture and the traditions and company of our Muslim friends, but also to demonstrate to them and invite them with me to extend hospitality and to just kind of be provoking them to think about their neighbors and think proactively about who are the people maybe just a mile away from me, who might not live in my immediate community, but who are technically, you know, they're my neighbors. They live and they go to the same schools as, you know, your kids do. They go to the same stores, and we would otherwise a lot of time not know each other. That's something important to me because I've benefited so much over the years from my relationships with Muslim friends and from all over many different countries. And I always am telling my American friends how much they're missing out on these kinds of relationships. So I wanted to create a space where they could encounter people who have a different story, a different faith, and yet many of them are Americans or recent immigrants, and live right here alongside us. So it's an opportunity that continues to grow where some of my American friends have been so great to partner with me and start serving alongside me, like planning it and planning each gathering or giving rides to people, or even initiating like, hey, let's do this, and letting them help lead that community a little bit. It's not, you know, I don't need to lead it. And that's what's exciting about the growth that you're asking about, is like just seeing Americans and Muslims on both sides of people who've been coming, just let it become their thing. And feel like it's something they own, it's a community they own, that now these friendships are their own, and we can all continue these relationships.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love it because it's like, yeah, we're sharing this community. Like we are shopping for groceries next to each other. We're going to the same movie theaters and coffee shops. And so it's, yeah, I love that idea of like, why not? Like we're together, we're living together. So yeah, and that's awesome how others have been able to kind of take ownership and be welcomed into that space, because really it's all of us. Like we're not isolated. We don't live in, you know, vacuums or silos. That's so cool. So as you've shared a little bit about how you've benefited so much from your friendships with Muslims, but in particular, maybe what's something that you've learned from your Muslim friends here, and has your perspective of Muslims changed at all because of hanging out with them? Has it changed your view of yourself as a Christian, or maybe like how we as the church engage with Muslims? And to pile on another question, how would your Muslim friends, how do you think they would describe their experience hanging out with local Christians and Americans?
Yeah. So, like I said, over the last 6 years, I've become so close with many of my friends, my Muslim friends who've become totally family, really close. And the implications of that and what I have learned from that, too many things to really say, but overall, like my perspective has changed so much as an American and as a Christian. I would say both of those kind of go hand in hand for me. For example, during the Muslim ban in 2017, that felt personal to me. You know, it kind of felt like, these are my people, but don't mess with them, you know, and also not just feeling defensive for them, but feeling with them how difficult that period of time was, and how uncertain and how frustrating and how angering that was, and also how othered they felt for people from those countries who felt what is unfortunately a growing narrative right now in our country, which is that you're not welcome here, or this isn't your place, go back to where you came from, kind of thing. And so those kind of narratives that are so widespread, I think it's so important to be in relationship with Muslims, and beyond that, again, to immigrants in general, people who are different from you, have different lived experience, because it totally has colored my perspective so differently whenever something happens. Whenever some military attack in Palestine or various other countries where there's hostility towards Muslims, I think about it differently, because not only I can empathize because maybe I have a friend who's had a similar experience, but maybe I actually know someone from that country who is there right now and experiencing that, or has family there and they're experiencing the stress of that. So again, I think that oneness, I would describe it of being friends with many Muslims, is kind of this unity in my mind of like, your fight is my fight and your cares are my cares. Like, that's what brotherhood looks like, and that's what unity looks like. It's more than just pity or maybe some knowledge you may have about somebody else's religion, in the sense of like a scholarly way of looking at it, where you're still othering the person. You're like, this person in that country with those strange traditions and that strange religion. It's when you enter into relationship with people who are different from you, you become connected in a deep way, where there's deep empathy and there's brotherhood. So again, almost every friendship that I can think of, there's so many dozens of people that are coming to mind, but they're people who have extended friendship to me first. So it's not like I went out of my way. It was like, I want to know you, or I'm such a good friend to you. It started the other way around almost every time. And this is kind of going back to an earlier question of yours, but I would say, I think that's what's so striking about a lot of my relationships. It's like, I am from here and I live here. And yet even a lot of my first Muslim friends at school were international students, or they were Muslim Americans who are a minority here, and yet they made me feel welcome. So I'll say, to your question about what have I learned from Muslims, I would say that's the number one thing, is hospitality in this kind of no strings attached, no agenda way, where I've sat in people's homes that I hardly know for hours and hours and hours, just like chilling with their family, and just while they're like cleaning or like playing a game, or just having no agenda at all, and just feeling completely a part of the family. That's something that's not common in kind of mainstream American culture, and it's something that I value and I have taken on as my own, and I definitely want to extend that to other people. So that's a huge thing I've learned from my Muslim friends. Yeah, the sense of not being a stranger in their community. And I think of Jesus' teachings, the thing that is so important, and it's not a light thing, the commandment to love your neighbor. And I would say what I've learned from my Muslim friends is how they demonstrate that so well. Even more than some Christians that I know. And it's a testimony. It's a testimony to just kind of the grace in their life, like the love that they have and the goodwill they have towards other people. Yeah, there's more things I could say.
Yeah, wow, that's so powerful. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for being a catalyst for peace in your community, and for fostering those relationships, because it really is providing protection to some people who might actually be fearful of just practicing their faith or being who they are in a country that might view them as less than, or be afraid of. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, if you enjoyed this interview, we invite you to check out more about Peace Catalyst. Check out our website linked here. And yeah, we look forward to the next convo. Thanks, AnaMichele.